I have reached out to the law enforcement departments, to the social service agencies of this community. I've begun to form relationships that I hope will continue to grow throughout the years. I have acknowledged that there are players in this system that need to be addressed and need to be spoken with about my plans, and I've received favorable response from them. In fact, a lot of the progress, I'm going to say this, a lot of the progress that we need to make in Johnson County in the social justice arena is being held up by the county attorney's office because of their policies. Now is the time we need to have reform and change always comes from the outside, not the inside. I am not part of a lineage of leaders where the torch has been handed internally through an office. I'm someone that's coming from the outside, from the citizens of Johnson County, and saying, you know, here's what I see. We need some changes, and I have the experience and the fortitude and the energy and the drive to do it.
Do you do ride-alongs in Lynn County?
I do. I have. Yeah, I think that it's important for well, anybody to do a ride-along, but especially a county attorney, because a county attorney sometimes only sees the written version of what the events of a night were for the police.
Right.
And to actually be in the squad car and realize the type of danger that police officers face on a regular basis, and also to realize just how skillful they are, is important for garnering and nurturing that respect between law enforcement and prosecution that sometimes is lacking if you have a system where the prosecution hasn't needed to reach out to law enforcement for years because they do their role, police do theirs, and that's all I have to worry about. You know, I would come in, reach out, and build those relationships and make them stronger.
Talk about rewriting the sensitive areas ordinance. Here's my question.
Okay.
Don't we already have a land use plan for Johnson County? Why rewrite it?
Well, we have a land use plan, but we don't have a sensitive areas ordinance. They're two different things. The land use plan that was proposed back in 1998 by the Board of Supervisors, ultimately approved by the county attorney, involved targeting certain areas for growth and whatnot. At that same time, and for years afterward, on a sporadic basis, groups would say, what about the sensitive areas ordinance? Shouldn't we identify areas in this county that we should protect from growth and development because you know, they are beautiful natural areas, or they are environmentally sensitive in some way or another. But the sensitive areas ordinance was never written, so it's never even become a part of a land use plan. This has allowed growth to continue unfettered and unchecked throughout the county. It has led to things like the Newport and Prairie du Chien Road controversy that's going on now. Had a sensitive areas ordinance been written at that time that protected that beautiful area, then maybe we wouldn't be engrossed in a lawsuit over the improprieties of how that plan came about. We should have had a sensitive areas ordinance written at that time. It's not too late. The next county attorney can take a position different from the current county attorney and say, we need to protect these areas. We're going to write this ordinance right now, and then we're going to revisit how we grow in this county. And that's what I would do, and that's what I've been calling for in my position with the Sierra Club for years.
Your opponent, Nick Maybanks, says that he wants to write a sensitive areas ordinance that would be tacked onto the land use plan. My question to him was, we already have a land use plan. Do you think we need something like that?
Really, land use issues such as that are really up to the Board of Supervisors to decide. The county attorney can assist writing them, can assist enforcing them, or would enforce land use ordinances, things like that. It should be up to the Board of Supervisors whether they want to adopt one of those things or not. Certainly looking at protecting our environment is something that is important, and I would encourage the Board of Supervisors to look at that. Now, exactly what the ordinance says is, again, going to be a decision that the Board of Supervisors will have to make, not the county attorney's office. It's my understanding there's been one that they've suggested. I think if I was county attorney and it was on my desk on January 1, I would try to get that to the Board of Supervisors so that they could decide whether they wanted to adopt it or not. I, as an employee of Johnson County, have never been asked to work on that area, on a sensitive areas ordinance, and I believe that's something that Pat White has been working on.
2002 Pierre Pierce assault. I know there was disagreement or that's what I read in the newspaper last week. There was disagreement in the Johnson County Attorney's office. Can you explain how or why this case was handled differently than other assault cases?
That's something you really should talk to Pat White about. He's the one who handled that case. I wasn't involved in that case at all. And so he could tell you better than I could in terms of why it was handled somewhat differently. I do think that in any kind of sex abuse case, you really want to make sure that you're listening to the victim, and that if the victim's been told one thing, you need to make sure you stand by whatever you've told them before. And you need to be listening to victims. And I think that that's, in that particular case, my understanding from Pat White is that that's what he was trying to do, is to try to accomplish what the victim wanted to have happen in that case. I think there certainly was dispute in our office about what the role the university should have taken in that case, and I certainly would disagree that the university, I don't think the university should have had any role in that case. But how it was handled would really be something you need to talk to Pat White, as he's the one who was dealing with that case, or Ann Leahy, who was also working on that case as well.
Okay.
Pierre Pierce is not your typical student, and he's not even your typical student athlete. He was a basketball star at the time, and quite frankly, he was also a brutal and controlling person based on the evidence that was presented to the police and to the county attorney's office at the time that he was charged with a very heinous rape. And what happened at that point in time is once the case got to the justice system, it slipped right through the fingers of the people who are supposed to be in control, the county attorney's office mainly. At that point in time, Pierre Pierce got his own attorney. That's fine. But those attorneys who were from out of town bring in other attorneys, and they get an attorney to represent the victim. And all of a sudden, these meetings are happening behind closed doors, and they're hashing out a deal that makes everybody happy. And they bring it to the county attorney's office, and the county attorney's office, maybe wanted to go forward with it, but at that point in time, they had lost complete control. And it was at that point in time the county attorney's office then said that, we're not going to force the victim to go forward on this. A misdemeanor and a deferred judgment is an appropriate resolution to this case. I don't think that was the right way to handle it. If you're a county attorney and other attorneys get together and try to resolve a case that you are the lead attorney on, my response would be, thanks for your contribution, but I have a rape case to try.
Okay. Now, it's been over 3 years since the incident. Why did you wait so long to voice your concerns about the methods of the Johnson County Attorney's Office?
Well, actually, since I announced my campaign last June, I've talked to people about it. It wasn't until I was in an editorial board interview with the Gazette that I mentioned it, that it became a story. So it may appear as if that there's some kind of political ploy involved here, but all anyone would have to do is talk to the people close to me and realize that it has been since 2002 that I had concerns about the way that case was handled. And this presents a perfect opportunity to talk about whether the county attorney's office handled that case appropriately and what will be the philosophy and the approach of the county attorney in the future to future incidents like Pierre Pierce. And in my case, it obviously would be that all people charged with crimes should be treated the same. You don't see, for instance, 2 weeks ago when there was a Spanish-speaking laborer in Johnson County that was charged with sexual abuse. Now, whether he was actually guilty or not, he went to trial, he was found not guilty. He didn't have a mediator come in from out of town. He didn't have big-time lawyers from Des Moines come in. He was brought through the system like everybody else, and that's the way that all cases should be handled. There shouldn't be preferential treatment for anybody.